four presenters here, and this session will be chaired by Dr. Alia Halim. So I request Madam to come here, and I request Tania Parveen to give the conference key to Ms. Magazine. Now I request Masood Rana, Assistant Professor of Geography, to give a brief introduction. Please introduce Dr. Alia.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Vasant Bhai, for giving this opportunity to introduce the chairman of this session, Dr. Alia Hamia. Dr. Alia Hamia is an assistant professor.
Yes.
Alia Halim is an assistant professor in the Department of English at the New Tia University, Kolkata. She has more than 12 years of teaching experience in the post-graduation and undergraduate level. She has done masters in both English and linguistics from Calcutta University. She was a senior research fellow in the Department of Linguistics, Calcutta University, awarded the gold medal twice by the University of Calcutta for her academic achievements in masters and BA. She has invited as resource person and has participated and presented papers in national and international conferences. She has published books and journals in UGC Gear and Scopus journals. Her research interests include language studies, translation, folklore, minority studies centering around South Asia. Now I'm handovering the session to the chairman, Dr. Alia Halim, for the further proceedings.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So good morning, everyone, and welcome you all to the second day of this national conference on the Bengali Muslim experience today, identity, culture, and belonging. Now, I'm chairing the session number 9, and I request the presenters to please come up. Shomi Akhtar.
Shomi, please come up.
Not yet. Okay. Nasim Sheikh. Masood Rana. And Tausif Reza. Please come up. So Nasim Sheikh is a student of Darul Huda Islamic University. I request Nasim to please go to the podium. His title of the paper is Sufi Shrines in Bengal, Catalyst for Islamization and Social Integration in the Modern Era.
Respected delegates and judges, and my dear friends and brothers, feeling very happy and glad to be here in this opportunity, in this program. So, today's program is the Bengali Muslim Experience Today, Identity, Culture and Belonging. And the title of the paper, my paper title is Sufi Shrines in Bengal, Catalyst for Islamization and Social Integration in Modern Era. So, I think this topic is very important and to be discussed nowadays in modern era. So, dear friends, the region of Bengal, as we know, the region of Bengal known for its cultural richness and diversity, experienced the spread of Islam primarily through the activities of Sufi saints. Unlike the political expansion of Islam in other regions, Bengal's Islamization was largely peaceful and inclusive, driven by the teachings of Sufis, and the Sufi shrines become focal points of the spiritual, cultural and social life, promoting message of love, tolerance and equality. So the study explores how these shrines served as the catalyst of Islamization and social integration in Bengal and examines their continued relevance in the modern era and how the Muslims are give taking the results of these contributions. So if we look at the historical context of Sufi shrines in Bengal, as the presenter on the previous session presenter have presented their paper in the historical context of the Sufis in Bengal. So this is similar to this topic, the historical context of the Sufi shrines in Bengal. If we have a look, the Islam's entry in Bengal dates back to the 13th century and primarily through trade and conquest. This start through trade and conquest. However, the deeper acceptance of Islam among the local population is credited the Sufis who arrived in Bengal with a mission to spread Islamic teachings and principles all over the Bengal. If we look to the prominent Sufi figures who have the contributions to the Islamic syncretism with other religion and Islamic principles to the Bengal region. So we can see Hazrat Shah Jalal. I have the previous presenter Masudul Islam have said that Shah Jalal has known for his role in spreading Islam in Sylhet, Bangladesh, and Shah Jalal influence extended beyond religion, as he inspired agriculture and social reforms in the region. And second one is Khan Jahan Ali. In Sundarban, this region, we can see that he built mosques and worked to integrate local communities into the Islamic framework through the philanthropic efforts, and he gave his efforts to make a syncretistic tradition in Bengal. And nowadays we can see the shrines of Sufis have making a great role to shaping Islamic culture and other religion in Bengal. So the Sufi shrines become sanctuaries for the poor and marginalized people, offering spiritual guidance and practical solutions to everyday problems and everyone problems. They were regarded as centers of hope and healing, attracting both Muslims and non-Muslims. We can see in the book The Islamic Syncretistic Tradition in Bengal by Ashim Roy. He contributed many great work by which we can see the tradition which is very syncretistic and very mixed with the other religion in Bengal. So my dear friends, if we look to the Islamization of Bengal through the shrines of Sufis, so the Islamization of Bengal was distinct because it was rooted in spiritual attraction rather than cohesion. Sufi saints emphasized the universality of Islam, presenting it as a faith and equality and compassion. And if we have a look to the peaceful conversion, so Sufis engaged in dialogue and emphasized communities between Islam and local beliefs. Their teachings resonate with the oppressed section of society, such as lower caste Hindus who found solace in the egalitarian ethos of Islam. And syncretism and adoption. Bengal's Sufi. So we have now we will look to the conclusion. So this paper titled Sufi Shrines in Bengal, Catalyst for Islamization and Social Integration in Modern Era. So Sufi Shrines in Bengal have played a transformative role in shaping the region's religious and social fabric. Beyond serving as places of worship, these shrines acted as hubs for the spread of Islam, particularly through peaceful means and spiritual guidance. And this paper delves into the historical significance of Sufi shrines in Bengal, analyzing their role in Islamization and their ability to integrate diverse communities. And finally, it reflects on the modern relevance of these sacred spaces and their potential as symbols of unity and contemporary society. Dear friends, I conclude from here. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, thank you, Naseem. I'll ask Masood to give his paper presentation. Masood Rana is a student of Darul Huda Islamic University. His title of the paper is The Evolution of Bengali Muslim Identity from the Sultanate to the Mughal Period in the Modern Context.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Firstly, I honorable guests and respected scholars. Today I am here to
Be a
present.
little loud.
Today I am here to present my fixed topic on this conference: the evolution of Bengali Muslim identity from the Sultanate to the Mughal period in the modern context. I think this paper is very important for us to know this paper. Why this paper is very important for us and why we can so this paper tracks how Bengali Muslim identity evolved across the significant historical periods and how this evolution continues to shape a community today. During the Sultanate period, the establishment of Mughal rule in Bengal laid the groundwork for the spread of Islam. The influence of Sufi saints and establishment of Muslim rulers in Bengal lead the groundwork for the spread of Islam. Islamic scholars was key in integrating Islamic practices with local Bengali traditions, fostering a unique blend that would become the foundation of Bengali Muslim identity. So, I chapterized this topic on the 3 chapters. This chapter set the foundations for the papers, outlining the scope, importance, and approaches of the study. It introduced the key questions: how did the Bengali Muslim identity evolved from the Sultanate to the Mughal periods, and how does this scope modern prescriptions? So first is that the introductions of this topic. So the evolution of Bengali Muslim identity from the Sultanate to the Mughal period in the modern context explore how the identity of Bengali Muslim developed historically and how this restored in the
important points.
Okay, so there are so many important themes about this topic. Early information during the Sultanate period in the 12th century, 13th century to 16th century, the arrival of Islam in Bengal. The Islam arrived in Bengal through the trades, Sufis, and missionaries, fostering conversation among the lower castes. And the next is establishment of the Sultanate in Bengal. Bengal independence under rulers like Shah Jalal, like Ilyas Shah promoted a unique blend of Persian culture with local Bengali traditions. And next is syncretism. Local culture merged with Islamic practices, creating a distinct Bengali Muslim identity influenced by Sufis and folk traditions. And another is role of Sufi saints. Like the Sufi saints, like Shah Jalal played a significant role in spreading Islam with accommodating local customs. And consolidations during the Mughal periods in 1576 to 1755. The Mughal administrator like Akbar conquered the Bengal in 1576, both stability, administrative reforms, the integration with the large Mughal empire, and their culture flourishing. Persian become the administrative language, but Bengal literature thrived, blend Islamic and Hindu elements. Examples the work poet by like Alaul Shah, and their urbanizations. Cities like in the Dhaka become the center of the trades of Islamic learning, further shaping Muslim identity. And their the Sultanate, in the Sultanate times, there are so many missionaries came in Bengal, and they are flourished the Islams in the Bengal, and they are the first shaped in Bengal through Sufi saints and missionaries during the 12th centuries and 13th century. Between the 12th and 13th centuries, inclusive approaches appealed to the local populations, especially marginalized and communities, leading the conversations. They are conversant with the local people like the Dalits, and they have to convert in the Islam. And another is political foundation. The establishment of Bengali Sultanate in 1342 to 1576 provides a political framework in the institutionalizations of Bengal. Sultanate by Ghiyasuddin Azam and Ghiyasuddin Azam Shah and Alauddin Hussain Shah played a significant role in the fostering of Islam ethos with accommodating local customs. And another is syncretism, the blending of Islam teachings with indigenous Bengali culture resulted a distinct identity, local presenting language and practices and traditions integrated into the Islamic rules in the Bengal Muslim identity. Okay, in the last, I will conclude in the last point. The relevance of this topic is scholars and its necessity for discussion. Why? This is so necessity for discussion in this topic. The scholars' importance is the interdisciplinary insights. The topic spans historically, logically, and political sense and cultural studies, offering a multidisciplinary perspective on identity information formation. And case studies of syncretism, Bengali Muslim identity showcase how religious cultures and political interplay, providing insights into syncretist societies. And another necessity for discussions is impacts on modern Bangladesh. Understanding the evolution of Bengali Muslim identity helps contextualize current debate on secularism, Muslims, and nationalism. And another for the necessity for this topic is youth engagement. For younger generation study this evolution, fostering awareness there is of their culture, heritage, and identity from this Bengali Muslims identity. They can get this from this scholars. So I will conclude here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
So thank you, Mahmood. Now I request Tausif to take the podium. And Tausif Reza is a student of Darul Huda Islamic University. The title of his paper is Faith and Fusion, Exploring the Unique Religious Practices of Bengali Muslims.
Good morning, everyone. Today I am so glad to be here and honored to present my research paper on the unique religious practices of Bengali Muslims with a focus on how Islamic traditions intertwine with Bengali cultural elements. And as I explore this intersection, I will discuss about how Muslims and they primarily resides in Bengal, and how they develop a distinct identity through the fusion of Islam and their faith. So I am going forward. In order to contextualize this research, we need to first engage with exciting scholarly works of Bengali Muslims such as Sayyid Ali Hassan in his work The Islamic Culture of Bengal. The Islamic Culture of Bengal. He highlights the unique cultural expressions among Bengali Muslims, particularly their fusioning on the way of in which Islamic traditions are influenced and with local Bengali customs such as food traditions, celebration of our festivals, and furthermore we have J.P. Telhami's works as named Sufi mysticism in Bengal. This book examines the importance of Sufism in shaping the religious practices of Bengali Muslims, and furthermore, Sufism, the word Sufism, which emphasizes love, devotion, and mysticism, has a significant influence on the spiritual life of the community. By going ahead, I have a historical context of Islam in Bengal that is presented before me, and here a book we need to recognize that the cultural identity and religion in Bengal. The work of M.A. Rahman. This delved into detail that syncretism nature of Islamic expansions, and according to Rahman, Sufism, Sufism played a central role in the Islamization of Bengal, with the saints and their disciplines promoting Islamic teachings in ways that we accessible to the local populations, blending Islamic ideals, indigenous beliefs and practices. Additionally, here are Sayyid Ali Hassan in his work the Islamic culture of Bengal. The Islamic culture of Bengal. He highlights how the fusion of local Bengali customs with Islamic religious practices created a unique form of Islam in Bengal. And here are the role of Sufism and saints as described. The Sufi orders such as Chishti order, Qadri order, and Shadili orders have a profound influence on Bengali Muslims in their religious practices, particularly through the establishment of shrines or dargahs. And here we have the most prominent Sufi shrines such as Hazrat Shah Jalal shrines in Sialhat and Hazrat Shah Noor's shrine in Dhaka. These two attract thousands of pilgrims every year. These shrines serve as a symbol of both spiritual devotion and community cohesion, where people from different areas come together to seek blessings, engage in prayers and participating in communal activities. Furthermore, here Sufi musics and poetries, as we know the famous Baul music of Bengal, which has a deeper connection to the spiritual teachings of Sufism, and the Baul songs, the Baul song that focus on the theme of love, devotion, and the search for God, often blending Islamic mysticism with Bengali folk traditions. Moreover, adhkars to the remembrance of God and performing Qawwali. Qawwali is a form of devotional music are performed in these settings as part of spiritual rituals. These rituals participates by highlighting the mystical and emotional aspects of worship. Scholars such as M.A. Rahman and J.P. Telhami have emphasized the centrality of Sufism to the development of Islamic religious practices in Bengal, noting how Sufi shrines act as a hub of spiritual and cultural lives and such more. And we look forward for the urban and rural practices. In rural Bengal, the traditional religious practices rooted in Sufism and indigenous Bengali customs such as much more prevalent. Rural communities such as they perform Sufi rituals such as zikr, qawwalis, and the Urus festivals. Urus festivals is a death anniversary of the Sufi saints and such more. And there are food traditions as we celebrate in Eid as by making foods of as semai, korma, and such as. And here, and in a nutshell, I can conclude that with my paper in short that the role of Sufism in our society and its associated participants as well as the ritual, the rural and urban, both divided in religious observance. And those religion, rural and urban areas have sent a shift towards more formalized Islamic practices. Often it influences by global Islamic trends or another one. The role of Sufism, along with the specific ways in which Bengali Muslims reconcile the religious identity with local cultural practices, provides a rich and fantastic area of study and such more. And here I conclude in short. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Thank you for giving me this chance.
Thank you, Tausif. Now, our speaker has also come, Somi Akhtar. I would request Somi ma'am to please go to the podium. She is a faculty of Department of Mathematics, Jogomaya Devi College, and also she is a PhD scholar of Astrophysics, Jadavpur University. And the title of her paper is Evolution of Science in Mathematics and Astrophysics by Muslims. So
It's okay.
So you can sit there and be
No, I'm comfortable. Thanks. So, Assalamu alaikum and good morning. I think I don't need this microphone.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, because we are recording that. And your system is very important.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. So, let's start with the why of Arabian music. I know you all know this. Actually, I'm from background of mathematics. I'm doing PhD in astrophysics, and this is my first time presenting something regarding history-based thing. So now I fall in love with history too. I believe that here are some people in his who are doing PhDs on history, and I might contact with him or her later. As I have to know many things regarding this. From the last few days, I have been preparing this, and I just actually mesmerizing about all these incidents that we Muslims have a golden age of time, and we are now, we don't know sleeping or not, but we are not working that much that in that period of time that we worked actually. So at first I just start with this Bayat al-Hikmah. Is it working?
yes.
Okay. The first transition, the first moment was translation movement. At that time, the Abbasi Khalifa, I think it is the time of the Abbasi Khalifa. We all know the name Harun al-Rashid, who first started that gathering all the knowledges from everywhere, the world, actually the foreign. So that's why he had to translate the foreign languages, mainly the Greeks and from the Greek and the Hindus, and also the Persian too. So that's why he established like a library that is called Bayat al-Hikmah. In English, you can translate this as House of Wisdom. Okay, I have to see the slide many times as actually I am not from this historical background. So that's Khalifa Harun al-Rashid started this Bayat al-Hikmah, establishing this Bayat al-Hikmah. That is one kind of library at the first time, but later on this became the educational hub. There are researchers mainly comes and gather their knowledges, and so many elementary things were, notable elementary things were translated there, just like Euclid's geometry, Ptolemy's amalgates, that was based on the astronomy, that was geometrical concepts, and so on. And this was completed by his son Al-Mamun. Though this is not now, actually this is completely destroyed by I think this is completely destroyed by Mongols. I haven't included that part here. And so going to the next slide. So I'm now going to say some bright stars or bright minds of that house of wisdom or Bayat al-Hikmah. Among them, one was Al-Khwarizmi. We all know. Do you know the first line? Can you read this? Do you know the term algebra originates from an Arabic word that is al-Jabr, and the man behind this is Al-Khwarizmi. This is actually his statue. Somewhere I have mentioned all of this, and in the blue link in each and every pages, that is actually the citations where I have get these informations. Okay, and he had written so many books, not only in mathematics but also in astrophysics too. So at first I cleared that there is something called ZIZ. ZIZ means the books on astronomy, the books written on astronomy. Okay, so not on, I have written down this as mathematicians, but actually at that time people are not only mathematicians or not only astrophysicists or not only doctors, something else. They were simultaneously genius. They were as well as mathematicians, as well as astrophysicists, and as well as novelists too. So Al-Khwarizmi was one of them. Actually, I am telling about all the personalities. They were actually both in mathematics and astrophysicists. Okay, so he has written down so many books. Among them, the main thing that we, the algebraists, know the most, that is called Al-Kitab al-Mukhtasar fi Hisab al-Jabr wal-Muqabla. In short, we call Al-Jabr al-Muqabla. This is the first book written by him, and this is the main book from which the algebra stands on. We Indians proud for Aryabhatta that he discovered the zero, and Al-Khwarizmi, the man who established the basic meanings of zero, basically the decimal representation. That's why we all are doing mathematics on the basis of that. Okay, so the next slide I am telling about. The main part, he solved the quadratic equation. I think this will be important for all of us if we know that this is so simple thing that we have. There is a thing that Modi ji said that extra ABC kahan se aaya. So I think in this video you can get to know extra ABC kahan se aaya.
The quantity x squared plus b times x can be represented geometrically using an x by x square as pictured here, and a b by x rectangle placed underneath. Then x squared plus bx represents this area. But we can take that b by x rectangle and cut it into two equal pieces, so that one rectangle is a b over 2 by x rectangle, and the other one is a b over 2 by x rectangle. But we can place one of them on the right side of the square like this. Now the area represented is almost an x plus b over 2 by x plus b over 2 squared. The only thing missing is this lower right square that has dimensions b over 2 by b over 2. So the area we're interested in is x plus b over 2 squared minus b over 2 squared. This process
So
is
the sky color here is the 2BC. Okay, so this is the basic thing. Even when I was in class 11 or 12, I even don't know this demographical world. After that, in my graduation level, I came to know about this part, and this is actually so mesmerizing that even a plus 1 or 2 boy can depict the thing. Okay, the next is Al-Battani. I divided this part into two parts, in mathematics and physicists, and I kept him in mathematics class because he had done major things in mathematics, but he is also astrophysicist. But Al-Battani has done the main thing in trigonometry. He first uses that sine, cosine and tangential things, and he has done each and everything on the main part on trigonometry, and he also have done astronomical things in his book. There is a book of him, Kitab al-Jid. And so I am skipping this. All the years I have written here in CE. That is actually equivalent to Anno Domini AD. Actually CE means common era, and this is actually something secular type of words. And the next one is Ibn al-Haytham. If I say about this man, then it will take nearly 1 hour. So I have to skip it just because of my time. But I have to say something about this man, that he called the father of optics, of not only for the golden age of Arabics, but also still now he called the father of the optics, as he has said that the light come to our eye directly, and does not originate from the eye, but on the opposite enters to the eye. That means from when the light comes to a body, then that light reflects on the body to your eye, then you can see that part. When there is a color in black, just like the color of my churidar, the color is not reflecting. That's why you are seeing the black here. Just like the black hole shadow, you have seen in 2019 there was an image of EHT, Event Horizon Telescope. There was a black ring-like photo. I should mention it here, but sorry, I know you all know this picture. That was the black thing, and because the no light was reflecting from that part, that's why this is showing black. So Ibn al-Haytham, he has to say it by the king that you have to make a dam, you have to give the equations of this on that Nile river. But he refused to do this, and because he said that this can't be possible. That's why the king locked him in a room, and that's called a dark room. And in that dark room, he acknowledged all these things. Actually, he has deep knowledge on optics regarding things. And the next one is innovations of astrophysics. I'm skipping this one. And the main part of this PPT is the spread of Islam. If you see the green color, that means the Muslims are inquiring this all these options, and you can see the oceans and the seas there. That is all the blue color things. That's why at that time we need to navigate. Just to go from this side to this side. Now that's why they need to seek help of navigation. And I think all the physicists and all the historians think that that's why the people were encouraged in astrophysics like things, just to not only to navigate but also in many things too. Oh, there are so many observatories, though all are now destroyed, and one of the most important is the Samarkand Observatory. I am also skipping this part. And the main thing of all this astrophysics and navigation, there was an equipment that is called astrolabe. Though it was introduced by the Greeks, but the Arabians or the Muslims developed this so much that this is called the handheld model of a sky. And this is actually created with many parts, and all the parts are equivalently important. That's why you can not only know the day and time of each and any place of the earth, but also where the positions and the positions of important places, the heights of the building, and the distance in the sea, even in the sea. Okay, I put a slide here just to show you the a glance of video. You can see how they saw
The
this.
sun is 54 degrees above the horizon. The user now turns the astrolabe over to find the 54-degree circle on the bottom plate. Next step, find and mark the date. It's etched on the ring that represents
This circle was regarding the dates, representing the dates.
Rotate the plate until the date aligns with the altitude mark. If you take a piece of string from the center of the astrolabe through the aligned points, you can read the time from the rim.
On that line, that line was first measured. See, from this line, on that line, they kept that date and time.
Once we reach that, we can calculate any time. So that is not a simple to use instrument, but accurate enough for all timekeeping applications.
Okay. So, I think we all know this name, Al-Biruni. Actually, he is Al-Biruni first discovered this eclipse portions, the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse. He first gave this idea, and at that time, the main thing we have to clear that there was two kind of models. One is geocentric models and one is heliocentric models. Geocentric models means the Earth was at the center and all the planets were revolving around that Earth. And this is the Ptolemy's model. And then the heliocentric model, this is the actual thing that was, we all know this, the modern of Copernicus, that is sun is at the center and all the planets are revolving around that sun. And actually this idea was thought first by Nasir al-Din al-Tusi. He has done this kind of things. You can see a big circle there and a small circle in between this. And this small circle is actually half the diameter of the big circle. And if you see the locus of a point, the locus of a fixed point, here is that point. The locus of a point is actually a straight line. That means that point is gradually up and doing up and down on a circle. But this is creating a straight line. Can you see? Basically this is a circle. This is not a straight line, but a point on a circle, giving you a idea of that it can go through a straight line. Just look at that point. On the tip of the blue line, you can see this is only going up and down, up and down. And this is an important topic. And regarding this idea, we can see this. I think I have written it down here. In Copernicus' work, there we see, I haven't included that PPT page here. Here we see that he is pointing all like the Arabians. That means Ali Bata, like this. So we know that Copernicus was in 1473, and he already knows the Thusis world. And then he says that the model is of heliocentric model. I have given you that why. This is actually Ptolemy's model, and simplified version is this, and this is actually Copernicus model. This is Copernicus, and this is his model. And then the key figures in mathematics and astrophysics have told you that Al-Khwarizmi is the father of algebra, and Haytham the father of optics, and so on. And I was thinking that I will finish, I can't finish this in 10 minutes. So I actually haven't done this modern part of my Muslim things. So I only give two names, Syed Ahmed Khan and Abdul Salam, who actually got the Nobel Prize in Physics, and there are so many on. And actually this topic was regarding Bengali Muslims, and I can name some of the Bengali Muslim meanings of this era now. I can actually my topic is on physics, astrophysics and mathematics. So the first one I can name my guide, Dr. Farooq Rahman. He is actually an FRCS, and he has also he has the citations more than over 5,000 till now, and he has the HI index 13. That means a huge index. I think you all know this. And he has written 3 books, and there are so many physicists and mathematicians. I am coming due to my short knowledge, and thank you.
So thank you, Shobhi ma'am. It was a very wonderful and very interesting paper you shared. Because of lack of time, we couldn't elaborate much, because I kept on saying that you need to finish your paper, but it was wonderful. And we were literally taken aback to know so much about maths, astrophysics, optics and astrolabe that you just mentioned. So thank you very much for an enlightening paper. And the session is open for questions. We have 4 speakers. I would request the speakers to please come up on stage once again, in case if there is any question for you to answer. Speakers, please come up. Shobhi ma'am, Naseem, Masood and Tawseef. Any questions for them?
So I have only one question. Naseem said you mentioned about the Sufis. One is Shahjahan, another is Khan Jahan. Apart from this, can you mention any other name?
Not further information about it, but I have included.
So you mentioned only 2.
Yes. Just
I
there
want
are
to
more Sufis, but I have the
It's prepared only on
prominent names.
Any other questions or observations? Okay, as far as my little observations for Naseem. Naseem had given a paper titled Sufi Shrines in Bengal, Catalyst for Islamization and Social Integration in the Modern Era. But you did not give any examples of Sufi shrines in Bengal?
Sufi shrines like we can see in Bihun,
Is there any name?
Pakri Chapni,
Okay.
Tatabadur Shah and Saranagar. In Kolkata, we see Baji Baba.
You did not mention, you should have mentioned that. And what about syncretism? You were talking about syncretism?
We can
Can
see
you give some example?
cultural syncretism.
Like?
Urus,
Hmm.
the Sufis death anniversary. In this, we can see that many people are coming from other religions.
Many people meaning?
Many people many other religious.
Correct, you have to be specific. So you mentioned that. Good. Alright, next is the little question for Masood. So you spoke about evolution of Bengali Muslim identity from Sultanate to Mughal period in the modern context. You gave example of Alwal. Any other writer? So you should have worked on that. You should have given some more examples of writers and their texts. Okay. And Tausif. Okay, Tausif's paper was good. So you had done a detailed research, supposedly. You had mentioned the writers also when you were giving your paper presentation. You gave example, you have written, his paper was Faith and Fusion, exploring the unique religious practices of Bengali Muslims. So unique religious practices, you gave examples like Qawwali, Urs, the food that is being prepared, etc. as examples. Any other unique religious features? So you have just shared in your paper about these three. Okay, and you spoke about Baul, but you did not give any examples because you were talking in the field of Bengali Muslims. You mentioned Baul, but you did not give any examples. Any famous Baul you know? Okay, all right. So any other question? And as far as ma'am's paper is concerned, I'm awestruck by it. So I really don't have any questions for her, but just that I was mesmerized by whatever she said because it was something very new for me. So any other questions for my presenters here? Okay, so thank you everyone. Thank you paper presenters.
And you are from history background? No one? No, I just need to conduct. Oh,
But I like history, but I'm not.
I also don't know. Fall in love with this subject.
Yes.
From
Yes,
writing
yes.
this one. I was thinking to write a paper. This is not a paper actually. I just only presented a
Please do write a paper. It's a wonderful presentation. Thank you everyone. Thank you.